Good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome on into the Dragon's Den. My name's Digital Dragon, your host for today. Welcome on in, Eagle the Dragon. Hey, Mr. Wizix, how are you all doing? And Eagle the Dragon, I did get the early Christmas present. Thank you very much for that. I am not going to open that or show that on stream today just because it's going to be a short stream and I want to make some progress on this. So we may do that some Saturday morning. So thank you. Either that or I will maybe put it together off stream and show off the results on Saturday. So welcome on in, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well today. We did go live a little bit early today because once again, I've got my Warrior Rising class tonight at 7. This is the last of the 4 classes. And then I'll go into the Warrior Rising Academy, which is more of like the follow-on that gets a little more in-depth into every part of this. And once again, this is a program for service-disabled veterans to help us start and launch businesses. So as you guys know, I have created an LLC. I am going to be launching a business going into into 2025. So the entity is set up. I'm doing some of the other stuff to get it ready for launch. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now. So thank you everybody for being here. I'm doing pretty good, Mr. Wizix. The day started out a little rough because something happened overnight that yesterday that I was not made aware of in my role at work and kind of frustrated me a little bit. I moved past it because quite honestly, it was just stuff I didn't want to deal with anyhow, but it is what it is. I'm good. I'm good. I've got coffee. Got my Dunkin' a little bit early today, so I got coffee. Did not get donuts because the person doing the ordering at my Dunkin' is an idiot and doesn't know how to actually do inventory. But I got nothing bundt cakes, which is like almost better. So if you never had a nothing bundt cake and you got one in your area, give it a shot. Give it a shot. You'll be surprised. Yeah, so um today we're going to be back to working on the Voron. I was trying to do some stuff yesterday. I didn't. I was still feeling a little bit under the weather, so after work I just kind of went downstairs and chilled with Mrs. Dragon downstairs. Um and today I think I'm doing a little bit better and I can focus a bit. So we're going to be working on some wiring. Okay. And the wiring that we're going to be doing is we need to wire up the filament sensors for our Filametrix toolhead. We need to finish building out the parts for the Filametrix toolhead and get that installed. And then we're going to work on doing our pass-through wiring or under-deck wiring for our CANBUS. Now, on this particular build, we're going to wind up having 2 different CANBUS cables. One going up to the tool head and then one going up to the box turtle. So we'll go ahead and we'll get those squared away. We're going to make sure that they're both wired the exact same way. So the nice thing about CANBUS is it's not going to matter if I plug one, if I do like this or like this, when I plug it into the back, it's not going to matter. They're going to be plugged in the same way. And the plugs at the I'll say at the either the tool head or the at the tool head and at the box turtle side are going to be different. I will have to make sure that I mark the box turtle end because I can't be 100% sure just yet if it's going to be the exact same pinout on both ways, so that basically the back of the printer and the turtle box, if for whatever reason I take that cable completely off, I need to make sure that I put it back in this way and I don't put it in this way and wind up crossing a wire somehow and make magic smoke, right? We don't want any magic smoke. So the big thing is I want to make sure that that would almost be like a straight pass through, and then wire the other one up as a straight pass through. So no matter which way I wire these things, we're going to be good. That makes sense? I hope it does. So I'm going to start by cutting some thin wires. The way I tend to do this when I'm working on the, well, if I'm working on a Filametrix and I'm going into, say, like when we went into the Nighthawk Stealth Burner, the wires or the connectors on that board are a little bit bigger, right? So we have the ability to use different wire sizes. On the SB2209, because we've decided to keep the SB2209 board here, these connectors are very, very small. I want to say they're like a PH connector or something like that. They're stupid small, and trying to crimp these is painful. So what, and I'm going to switch over to the side camera here. So what Big Tree Tech started doing was providing little jumper cables, cut and tend on one end, and the other end is pre-crimped. And I want you to kind of see the look of that in my hand. Trying to crimp one of these bad boys is an exercise in pain and futility, right? So what I do is I take these wires, I figure out roughly what my length needs to be, and then I will cut these, strip the end, solder it, and now there's my pre-crimped wire and I don't have to worry about it anymore. They basically, when they first came out with these, there was a huge, massive stink because a lot of people, if they have crimpers, their crimpers are even longer or not designed to do these tiny of connectors, right? So a lot of people couldn't even do this to start with. And so they started providing this little ribbon cable of pre-crimped wires. And for the longest time, I didn't realize these were pre-crimped wires until I happened to look at it one day and I was like, well, I'll be darned. So now we've got some pre-crimped wires that we can use here. It's more of just pick a color you want to use. And in this case, I tend to use black for the common or ground, and then two different colors. That way I will always be able to differentiate between the two uh, end stops. Like language. So yeah, what we're going to be focusing on here is we've got two end stops down here. I've kind of laid them out how they go in our Filametrix toolhead. So I kind of have them roughly spaced in the right location and oriented in the correct location, because what we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of the black wire and we're going to jump the two commons, and then we're going to come off the other common, and that will go out to the pinout, because we've got a ground, two sensor pins, and then a voltage pin. We're not going to use the voltage pin, but we need to use a ground and the two sensors. Now, technically, we don't need two sensors to do box turtle. We're going to use two sensors to do box turtle, but it's not a hard and fast requirement, right? You only need the one before the extruder gears. The one after, I still don't think we're using in the software just yet, but it will become useful down the road. Okay. Yeah, it's very painful, isn't it? More, two more. Very painful. I was wearing my West 3D hat, but it's getting hot in here. I think it's just the coffee that's starting to get to me. So one of the things I need to look at is I'm just going to kind of lay my board on here where it's going to go. And I need to just kind of verify about how much length I need. And on this board, we've got a 3-pin, a 3-pin, a 4-pin, and then this long. The long one is an I2C connector. Currently, this 4-pin right here in the by the heatsink is where the CNC tap is at. This is the pinout we're going to use for our filament sensor. And we're going to repin this into a 5-pin connector, and that's going to get moved down here to this 5-pin connector, which is where the BL Touch would go. And we're going to use the 5-volt, the ground, and the signal pin. So we're going to use like the center 3 pinouts on that one, which means we'll have to remember to do some rejiggering of pins um, in our configuration, but that's not that big of a deal. But once again, what I wanted to do was just kind of see about where my board will lay in. And then also about how much wire I need. Because I'm going to cut this a little bit long to do my wire. I can always tuck it. These are very thin wires, so they should be relatively easy to tuck around. If you have thick wires, it's not going to be as easy to tuck around. And then, like I said, I'm going to use a length of this to also join the two. In the past, you would have seen me solder one long piece of wire. I'm going to try something different this time. We'll see if it works. But I'm going to basically try and just tap weld solder a jumper and then do the other one and see how well that works out. And like I said, for those that just came in, thank you for coming in early. This is the last day of the 4-class series for the Warrior Rising thing that I'm doing. And once again, that is for the business. So that is kind of what I'm dealing with, is I just need to be able to get off here on time to jump over to that. And of course, this is the big day, because this is the day where we start talking about like the business plan and things of that nature. So, okay, so we've got the small little jumper that we're going to use to tack weld. And the way this is the um, top side over here is where the plunger's at. So this is the common. The lower rear side over here is where the plunger at. So this is common. So we're basically jumping this top one to this, I'll say the one all the way on the left and the one all the way at the top on the right-hand side. We're gonna solder those two together. And very similar to what we do all the time, we're going to tin all of our pins. We'll tin our wire, and we should be able to just quickly tack it, because these are very, very small and thin wires. Okay. Solder on this wire joint here. On the wire. And let's get ready to solder this up. And before I forget, let me put a little bit of heat shrink on this side. We will want to cover up these wires with some heat shrink because there will be some circuit board behind this. One piece down there. Not going to heat shrink the other side because I'm going to try and bend it over and kind of pop it down right at the bottom base, because once again, this is going to have a second wire added to it. And hopefully when I go to add the second wire to this, I don't detach that wire. Speaking of the second wire, we're going to use the blue for the top one. This needs to be just a little bit longer than the black one, because we're going to be going down a pin. And the other one, of course, will be even longer still. And like I said, with any luck, we'll be able to get this soldered up really quick. Sometimes it goes very easily, and then other times it's just a bear. Hey, Layers with Lily, how's it going? It's almost bedtime, but wanted to drop it. Well, hello and hi. Thank you for dropping in, Layers with Lily. We are we're working on doing some wiring real fast. This is some end stops that we're going to use for our updated tool head. This tool head is a standard stealth burner that incorporates a filament cutter. So it's referred to as the Filametrix. Yeah, this is the Filametrix tool head. All right, why are you not? All right. Hey, look at that. We got it all stuck together there. That's a good one. That piece down there. Piece that'll go over the ground on this one. Another piece for the other one. And so for our box turtle, which is basically an open source AMS, what this does is this allows us to have a filament cutter at the tool head, which drastically helps the process because you're not having to do like tip forming. And one of the issues with tip forming and actually cutting as well is if you don't get it a good cut, you'll get a sorry, one second. You'll get a string, and stringing is like the worst thing you can get when you're doing a filament changer like this, because what's going to happen is that string will get pulled back in, and it's either going to get pulled into the filament buffer or the hub within the box turtle itself, and it fouls the path so that other filaments can't come in because we're doing that 4-into-1 joiner. So that's kind of a downside to it. Forgot that step more times than you cared to admit. Which one is that, Mr. Wizix? Doing, putting it all together and then forgetting that you didn't put the filament sensors in? Yeah, end stops are very important. You saw someone once who hacked a 3D printer to extrude chocolate on cookies, but hadn't properly configured the end stops and had to quickly manually click the end stop before every print job / cookie. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, the heat shrink? Yeah, I do that more often than I would like to admit as well. And I'm going to try and just, do the heating thing of shrink it using the iron versus getting out my proper tool, which would be my air gun, my heat gun, I should say. Just because I'm being lazy. Okay. So that's done. I've now got my 3 wires. And by the way, if you don't have a set of OmniFixos, these things are amazing. They have been one of the better tools between this and the Nipix pliers that KB3D gave me. Those are the 2 tools that I go to on every single build that we've done on the channel since I've got them. So definitely fabulous tools. They make things a lot easier. So if you can, then get yourself a set. Maybe get them on a wish list on Throne or something if you're a streamer, and see if you can't get somebody that's willing to send you a Christmas gift, because those things are nice. Okay, so we've got this. We want to get this put back into our Filametrix tool head. And what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to put a 5.5 millimeter bearing down into each slot. Then we'll put in our end stops, and then we'll have to put in the M2 by M2 by 8 or M2 by 10 self-tapping screws. Now, on the box turtle, when you were using bearings, they are 5 millimeter bearings. Got a whole thing of them here. Filametrix, since it was designed when the ERCFA came out, the ERCFA, or Enraged Rabbit Carrot Feeder, used 5.5 millimeter ball bearings. So Filametrix is designed to use 5.5 millimeter ball bearings as well. So it's kind of nice that in the Box Turtle Filametrix kit, it comes with both 5 and 5.5. I don't know if that's because there's a different version of Filametrix. I haven't seen one. Um, but yeah. All right, so that one goes there. This one goes here. Trying to, yep, we'll seem to both cover and trigger, so that's good, or at least cover. So now we've got to set these in place. And the one just kind of slips in, the other one actually gets pushed down in there. So let me see, come over here to the bench side. And we're kind of having to feed it in here because this lower one just kind of slips into a pocket there. And the other one has to get pushed down in. So we get this lined up, push this down in there, the cavity. Probably should have test fitted this beforehand because the heat set insert might have, or an overhang might have caused this to be a little snug. And it is going to be a little snug. Pop our bearings out, put them in the tray so they don't run off. We're going to need to do a little bit of filing here to clean up some of the channel, possibly, maybe. Ooh, I'm not going to be able to get the file in there. What are my options for cleaning that up? I'm going to have to, might have to break out the picks. So what's happening here is I've got a little bit of filament that has, it's an overhang area. So now what I'm going to do is use just some picks that you can get. This is from Harbor Freight. And I'm just going to try and get in there and scratch across it to see if I can break loose any of those little threads that just kind of stick up out of the corner there. Be careful. Picks are sharp. You can cut the heck out of yourself. And it looks like it may be just some of the, so when we put this heat set insert right here in, so this heat set insert, when we put this one in, it kind of bulged this corner a little bit. And I think that's what's causing us part of the issue as well. So we're just trying to clean that corner up a little bit. Make this slide down in there, and if so, we'll put our ball bearing back in there and we'll be happy, 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 joy, joy. Still not wanting to go down in there. Okay. This would also be really good if you had like a small set of like angled files or something. Well, Petty, I have got these in there a lot easier before this. I don't think it's a print tolerance. I think it's just literally a like it could have been when I put the heat set in that it squished over some because that is a very, very small wall. Or it could be, it might be a print tolerance thing. Either way, it's a little tight, so we're just trying to make sure that we can get this in here without busting our end stop. Okay, and I just got it down in there. It looks like I'm going to be able to press that down in there pretty easily. So before I get that down in there, make it hard to get back out, let me wiggle this back out, put our ball bearings in place, and then we'll put this back together. Ball bearings in place. Stick this in there, and I apologize. I know I'm not focusing on chat right now. Fiddly things, you know, small parts, big fingers. I need to focus a little bit. So we've got it started going in down there. We just need to get it down a little bit more, and this one will be done. That pop that one down in there. Move this one around and get it lined up. And this one down here is the one I normally have problems with because of this curved angle here. Trying to get your whatever screws you're using in there, I tend to wind up cracking the case on the end stop trying to get these screws aligned and going in there. So I got to be careful now that I don't do that because then we have a bad day again. Put our picks up. Okay. And we're putting these in. What do we got as far as screws in our Filametrix? Like I said, there are things in this bag like I have never seen in a Filametrix a countersink nut like this. I've just never seen one like this. I don't know where it would be used. It's, you know, it's doesn't seem like it's going to be a heat press insert. I have no idea. Hey, how's it going, Evil Diesel? How are you doing today? I hope you're feeling good. I'm trying to grab a couple of things I know that I'm going to need to use here. That one normally would get used, but we're not. See, here's some M2 flanged threaded insert. I have no idea. Those will get used. Self-tapping screws is what we're going to use. M2 by 10. I like these in the sense that they've got the little hex head on them. And then I'm going to say I don't like them in the extent of these are the ones that I tend to have the most problem with breaking this particular end stop trying to get these screwed in. because of the weird angle that we have to do. So we will try and get these lined up and get them, dang it, lined up and get them started as I'm dropping self-tapping screws, which are great because those actually have a nice nasty point on them. And I think what I'm going to do is do the ones in the front first, and then I'll worry about getting these into the end stop before we set the end stop down in there. Make that a little bit easier. But we're just going to screw this in and through. Now we don't need to ugga-dugga these down. These are basically going all the way through the actual end stop, and they're just holding them in place to keep them from going anywhere when filament gets put in. Stuck in bed the last few days? That sucks. I mean, don't get me wrong. I didn't want to get up and like do work, but being stuck in bed kind of sucks. So what I was talking about was basically just getting these started through the case. And then hopefully that gets the head down far enough that we can slide it into place without potentially busting something. And if it looks like that's not going to be the case, then we may switch over to a different style of self-tapping screws to get this properly aligned. Yeah, these screw heads are not going to let us get it down in there, so I'm going to pull these out, and we'll either go with some button heads, if I can find some button heads, because the socket heads are just going to be too big. Definitely need that. M2x8. I wonder if this will work. Will 8 be long enough to get through the end stop? Because these are 10 and they stick out a good deal. So if 8 will go in and I can kind of muscle it into the plastic, yeah, that would give us some bite into the plastic. Like I said, I'm just going to have to muscle it through the plastic. And by muscle it, I mean it's got like a basically a pilot slash point hole. So it's, yep, that doesn't want to go. So we're going to have to grab some of our M2x10 self-tapping screws that have like a button head. And unfortunately, I think all of mine are Phillips head screwdrivers, which drive me insane. But we'll have to fight with that. And I feel like I just knocked something else off the table because I heard it hit. I don't know what it was. Ah, it was the M6 screw from the door. Let me sit back down for a minute here. Ugh. We want to get into this container, which will have our M2 self-tappers. Everything else is black, so I'll grab a couple of these black ones. Once again, these are Phillips head, which I really don't like, but we'll break out the iFixit kit, and that should help us get those driven without stripping the heads out on them, which is normally what happens with them. Is I either strip the heads or I shear the heads off of them. Been a long week. One more day of school for the kid. Yes. Then you can just rest. Yep. I got you. One more day of work for me, and then I'm off work for 2 weeks. I just have to kind of stay aware because of things that are going on, but I don't think it's going to be like work stuff. Thank God. All right. So that one out. And going to be the one. And it's definitely worth taking the time to figure out and get the right Phillips head for what you're doing. Because if you don't, you will invariably strip the head out, and then you're going to just have a bad day, which is what I'm trying not to do. I don't want to strip the head out, and I don't want to crack the end stop case either, because if you crack the case, 9 times out of 10, I just wind up not wiring it up and using it as a, we'll say, backstop for the filament path. And apologies for not showing this. Like I said, small fiddly parts. But let me see if you can see where that screw is in relation to the printed part. Okay, so there we go. So I'm going to leave this one out just because, no, we'll put it in. All right. So that gets our end stop wires there. We're going to need to kind of bring them up, route them around as nicely as we can without breaking any of the wires, because that circuit board is going to sit right over the top of these. So we just need to make sure that they're down and properly routed up and around. Along the front. kind of like that. Just getting them up here at the top, out of the way, because our board is going to come in here like that and sit on a couple of standoff, or not a couple of standoffs, but sit on a standoff. Is this piece? Sorry. So we'll have our standoff that gets put through here. Never remember which way it goes. It goes that way, I believe. So this goes there, that goes there, here and through there. Okay. And those two screws through the standoff go into these spots here. So we need to make sure that our wire is down underneath the board. Board comes in, gets lined up, and we screw it down. Apparently it's better if we get the actual screw lined up with the, there we go. Okay, one side's in, the other does not appear to be going, actually neither one went in. Using the right size screws. Or do I have it in the right direction? Hey, Jalopy Jones, how's it going? Welcome in. For the life of me, I can never remember which way this darn thing goes in there. I may just not be using the right length of screws. These do not feel like they're going far enough in. Those are all the same size. They need to be a little bit longer, which is, I don't know why. Needing to be longer. Yeah, definitely need this to be a couple millimeters longer on these screws. Oh yeah, well these wires are really easy to make shorter. Just make sure that you cut the side that's not crimped so that you can use those crimped ones. Well, Nighthawk works fine. So these are 8s. I think I'm going to need 10s. Because 8, there's just very little, there's very little thread coming out. like maybe 2 turns of a thread. So we'll put 10s in here. And you were talking about Nighthawk. So I've got Nighthawk boards. I actually like the Nighthawk board. I haven't had a problem with it other than just the overall number of pens. Like it is truly designed for the LDO kit, and I think there could be some additional pins added, which would make life a little bit easier. Um, because that was one of the reasons, like on the other Voron 2.4, which is a true LDO kit, the XY end stop pod is still on the right XY joint and goes through the cable chain all the way back down. That frees up pins on the Nighthawk board to enable both sensors to be used. Um, on this particular board or on this particular build, my X end stop is on the CNC tap, which means I don't have enough pins available on the Nighthawk to do the double filament sensor. Hey, Chewy, how's it going? Script Father, welcome in. There are 2 pins by the front sensor that aren't populated with pins. There are 2 sensors by the. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like you can add, that's true. But once again, it's stuff that you have to do to make that board work the way you're going to use it. Okay. So we grabbed some M2 by or M3 by 10s, got that board secured down. Our motor wire is going to slip through here and plug in right there. Right, got our motor wire. I just wrap it around, plug it in. The hot end power goes here. Our XT32 plus 2 is here. And once again, these 3 wires are going to go into this 4-pin connector right in the bottom row next to the heatsink. So I'm going to need a 4-pin connector. We'll see what all we got here as far as connectors go. Shouldn't need any of the actual pins. Thank God. And I do know I'm going to need a 5-pin connector. Those, we got these, we got a ton of jumpers in here. Little tiny jumpers. That's a 4-pin connector. And this would be the large I2C connector. That's a 3-pin and a 3-pin. Either one of those will work. Give me 1 second to double check this. I thought this was a 4-pin. It may be in a 5-pin. Oh, that's currently in a 4-pin. So I need to find a 5-pin connector. So probably that I use the 5-pin in a different build. I've got multiple sets. I just keep dumping connectors between the boxes. So there's the 5-pin right there. Okay, and so once again, what we're going to have to do is take the 3-pin connector that is currently on the there's a 3-pin connector that's currently on the, sorry, not 3-pin, a 4-pin connector that is currently on the CNC tap on the actual machine behind me. And we're going to have to depin that 3-pin or 4-pin connector and pin it into the 5-pin connector. So that ought to be fun. That ought to be fun. Hey, Big Jano, how's it going? You get started building the box turtle tomorrow. Awesome, Chewy. Now, are you set up to do any streaming? Hey, Print and Play Keela's Way. Welcome on in. Yeah, I have a feeling like I missed some chat. Let me jump back here to chat real fast. Hard to stuff them all in there with the LDO kit to the Nighthawk SB. Like I said, the Nighthawk SB is actually a pretty good board. I just wanted to be careful on this build, and the way some of the mods that I've already put into this prevent me from using the Nighthawk board on easily without maybe going to like centralist homing or something. Cruise and she said jokes. So many missed opportunities. Yep. LED and part cooling fan. Could be, yeah. Welcome in, Shrimp Father. USB implementation is bad. I think you can get around it. And hey, Big Jano, thank you for the resubscribe for a total of 10 months. That's pretty awesome. Thank you. Yeah, FS and SU. I can't remember what those are for. But like I said, hey, Print and Play Keela's Way. Did you ever get your box turtle up and running? Keela? Yeah, CNC Tap V2 makes it a little bit more difficult. Yeah, and I did get in a eddy current probe that I was thinking about installing on one of my ender wires. Oh, Big Jano's streaming on Sunday? Yeah, Chewy, if you stream it on Discord or something, make sure to let people know that you're going to be streaming it, and I'll see about jumping in and at least listening in case you have any issues. Rittenhouse, I could probably help you. Ping me in Discord about what your setup is, like what printer it is. You're putting CNC tap on it with a Nighthawk SB. I've got one of those setups. I can take pictures and send you some stuff. All right. And thank you, Chewy, for gifting a sub to Print and Play Keyless Way. I appreciate it. Anybody got any experience with the Big Tree Tech Eddie Duo? He's worked a lot this week running on fumes, so he says it's ready to go, but hasn't did a test print yet. Oh, okay, Keela. Yeah, we're pretty close. Like literally, I need to fabricate wires, which is what we wanted to do today, and um, finish building our tool head back together because without a tool head, we're kind of not pushing plastic, right? Okay, so what do we do? We got a darn it, we didn't need a 3-pin. We need a 4-pin. We're gonna take a 4-pin off over there. So I don't know why the hell did I grab a 3-pin? Yeah, that because that's not the pin that I wanted. This is the 4-pin. Okay, there's the 4-pin. Now what I need to do is bring up the SB SB2209 GitHub. It's amazing when you can go right there because you've been doing so many builds. Let's throw up full display here. And you wired it up to an EBB36, so fairly easy setup config. Very nice, very nice. Okay, so we're looking at our pinout, and what we're looking at is, once again, this is the SPI out, the long one. The 3-pin at the top is the end stop. This is where I believe I have my X at today. I thought I had the probe down here in proximity, but I don't. I actually have it here in the end stop. And we're going to move, I say the probe, the CNC tap. We're going to move it from the end stop section down here into the BL Touch section. This is actually where it says it should go. And it tells you the preferred way to configure CNC tap V2 on an SB2209. So we're going to follow that guideline, which means from the end stop here, we need the 2 end stops and then the ground pins. So the pin closest to the heat sink over here, so the square on the diagram, is not going to be populated. You know, I just realized what they did here on some of this stuff. So on the BL Touch pin here, right, there's a square. That's the ground pin. On the SPI out, there's a square. That's a positive 5-volt pin. On the end stop, there's a square. That's a positive 5-volt pin. On the proximity switch, that's a square. That's the actual signal pin. On the end stop, that's a square. That's the actual signal pin. Like, they need to get their nomenclature stuff right and use the square as either ground or voltage and not this constant mix thing. Like, documentation is kind of a pet peeve of mine, and it needs to be done right so that people don't make mistakes and mess things up. Okay, so I've got my 4-pin connector here. The pins go towards the top side of the connector. So our first one is going to be on the left, and we want it to be our lower end stop because it's a higher number. So PB7 goes there. Means our blue will be the next one, which will be the next end stop pin, which would be what, PB6. And then third and last will be our ground pin. So all three of my pins are now in there. We've got our wire. It's going to come right over the top. We're going to loop it around and plug it into our 4-wire end stop connector. Right? We'll just kind of fold that over when we put our door down on there. Okay. And once again, this is where we had our CNC tap. We're going to depin the CNC tap wires. We're going to put it in a 5-pin, and it's going to go down here on this longer bottom one. That's there. Nice. So we got the end stop wires put in, the board's on. We've got our tool head. We need to finish our cutter assembly. That's where we might need to use some more of that stuff. You know what? These were M3 by 8. I don't know. We'll divvy all this stuff out later. I don't want to put that up just yet. These little wires I'll go ahead and toss. So we need to finish doing our install here. So let me switch the browser around. Of course, it's hey, look, my source doesn't pick up anything. That's awesome. There we go. Yeah, so far my box turtle I built in 2 streams. If I took that box turtle and put it over on the Trident Iron Dragon behind me, we would have had box turtle printing on Saturday. As in this past Saturday. So that LDO box turtle kit, you can fly through it because it's got all the wiring pre-done. And that makes life a lot easier. And by the way, folks, we do have the West 3D code now coming up in chat. We've got we've got affiliate links with Polymaker, KB3D, and West 3D. You can use Digital Dragon 72 at checkout for a 5% off, but it's one order. It's your first order. Once you use it, you lose it. So make sure you use it on, I'll say, something big. I did get the knife done already. You have to cut this blade down at 26 millimeters. That's not all that hard, but it's not, you're either cutting it with a Dremel, or in my case, I measured it, I drew a line, I put a pair of snips on that line, a heavy duty pair of snips, not, don't do it with these. You will bust these, right? I used a heavier duty pair of side cutters. Get that on the line. Get a pair of pliers on the other side. And do this until it snaps. It's stainless steel. It's a surgical stainless steel. It is going to be difficult to snap. Be careful. That's why I'm saying hold both pieces with pliers, because if you let go of it, you've now got a blade or a piece of metal flying around. Not good at all. So definitely be careful. Definitely wear eye and hand protection, and protect yourself. You got the Rapido for a discount? Cool. So once again, just like on the last one, I did wind up putting a little bit of super glue on this because it was kind of a loose fit. So we did put a little bit of super glue on this. So we got the knife here. We're going to take and put the knife holder in the cutting arm and use an M2.5 by 15. And I think we got a 2.5 by 16 here. So that'll work still. And you're going to put this in there and make sure that there's no more than 0.1 to 0.3 millimeters that stick out of the arm. Not on this side, but on the front side. Now, it's funny, and I always talk about this. It says the knife holder must move up and down, blah, 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 blah. But it says, check the orientation of the hole for the M2.5 screw in the knife holder. It needs to be on the bottom side. What does that mean? It means this hole that they're depicting in this diagram right here, you shouldn't see it. It should be on the bottom side. Why, I don't know, other than this hole. Well, actually, no, I take it back. I think you're talking about this hole, not the peephole. So this hole needs to be on the bottom side. So yeah, peephole goes up. That's actually my bad. I was starting to say that wrong. But that hole is off center. It is not centered on the piece. And depending on your print tolerances, this may be a self-tapping hole. So I'll get it started, get a few threads started, back it out, and that'll make it easier when I start to thread it through here. So you're basically just going to line this up in the hole and get your screw going through it. That's basically what we're doing right there. And once again, be careful. That is a very, very sharp blade. Okay. And here's where you need to be careful. So this screw is becoming the pivot joint in this plastic slot here, right? So this screw, when they say could be no more than 0.1 or 0.3, it's talking about this screw protruding through this side. You want it to be flush because that's what keeps the blade captive in there. And you don't want it sticking out past that or it will foul on your on the side of your printed part here on your motor mount. So make sure that you get that just through, that you can't catch it with your finger or you're barely catching it, and you should be good. Okay? Now we still need to do this particular heat set insert. Okay? Tip here for the heat set that goes above the cutter. I would suggest drilling the threads out with a 2.5 millimeter drill bit on the hot end holder side below the cutter. Make sure you flare out the PTFE tube to help guide the filament. Okay, so we flared out the PTFE tube on the hot end holder side, right? But we still need to drill the threads out of this heat set insert here. So, and this is one where I was looking at of, could this be expected to be one of these weird like countersunk nut hex thingies? Not that I can tell. Not that I can tell. Also, this is an M3, and there was not enough M3 nuts, so I'm going to have to grab one of mine. And I'm going to use a pair of pliers to hold it while I drill it out. Now, it says to use a 2.5 millimeter drill. It's M3 threads. So I don't think a 2.5 is really going to get it drilled out all the way. You may have to use an M3 to drill all the threads out. Because once again, the goal here is to make it as smooth as path as possible so that you don't get it hung up and caught when you're trying to. Said you're going to grab one of your nuts? Yes, I'm going to grab one of my nuts. One of my heat set inserts here. I'm going to grab it with my pliers. Make sure that I'm as straight up and down as possible. Really clench onto it. And I need to drill this out. We're going to drill the threads out of the nut. And like I said, that was a M2.5. It didn't even think about it. I don't want to let go of this, but what we really need to do is do an M3 because a 2.5 really isn't going to do anything to the threads. And that's the issue that we're trying to deal with, is to get the threads cleared out. My drill bit's about toast. And my battery's dead. Let me go swap batteries real fast. I'll be right back. You guys be good to one another. Talk amongst yourselves. Okay. And we're coming back up. I grabbed 2 different batteries because I wasn't sure which one was charged and which one wasn't. So let's give this another go. Okay. Now, you may go, well, wow, you just made a 3mm hole. Yes. Yes, I did. I'm going to make another 3mm hole because I'm going to clean the threads out of an M3 nut as well. In fact, I'm going to grab one of these because it's going to be buried in the tool head and it doesn't need to be visible. And And the reason we're going to do this on an M3 nut is because this goes on the top of the tool head. And once again, we don't want it to catch on threads. We don't want, because we're going to have a square cut off filament, we don't want that square edge coming down on a thread and catching, right? Hey, Bearded Printer, how are you? I don't know if there's a better way of trying to hold a square nut. I mean, a vise, yes, but a vise are basically just putting it straight down on something, but I don't have a block of wood. Do I? I do not. I don't know if my Nipix will hold this any better. Knowing my luck, Chris will come on right as I'm doing that and he'll cry. So what I'll do is I'm going to do this without drilling them out, which is going to give me a slight bit of anxiety. If we have any issues, we know that we need to come back, pop this out, and drill this out. Make sure that's pressed all the way down there. So what we've got here is a M3 nut that's right on top of our PTFE tube. This right here is going to protect it as the blade goes across so we don't start shaving the plastic and having a bad time. And that's basically what we're doing here as well, is making sure that there's a metal piece there that will prevent the plastic itself from being shaved off as we are cutting filament. So we'll bring our heat set press device up here. We'll set that. Meanwhile, we'll clean this up. And like normal, we'll get that going down in there. We'll grab our flat and make sure that we make that nice and flat and flush. And I'm running my iron at 270 right now, so it's not as hot as it normally is. We'll have that nice as flush, or nice and flush. You just attach your things accounts to someone's post on Facebook with the log cabin. Nice. There you go. If only you had a 3D printer. Oh, you mean me? Yeah. In fact, I may have another one inbound. Okay, so we had added heat sets here and here. We didn't put one down here. Now remember, this one and the top one are normally used to do the 80XL. We use the top one and this one here for doing our lever arm. We've done this setup. So I've got the heat sets on both sides of this. Finished one should look like this. It doesn't tell me which screws to use, but we're going to use a small screw. What all do we have in here? M3 by 8s, yada, yada, yada. There's an M3 by 16 button head. I will tell you this, the M3 by 16 button head I have personally found is not long enough. Okay, that's just what I've personally found. Now, because we're going to use this as a locking mechanism and a locking and a sliding mechanism, I'm going to take one of my M3 washers and one of my M3 by 8s that I still have over here. And you'll notice on this side, there's little lines. Well, that's going to line up perfectly with this edge that has the little ridges. That's what's going to help lock this in. So we're going to get this started. We'll figure out the final height of this once we get it mounted, or I'll tell you what I'm going to do is I'm going to go downstairs and look at Kyber Dragon and figure out where we lined up the where we lined that one up at, and we'll make this one line up. And apparently that's not long enough either. So I need a 10 millimeter for this one. Yeah. So we'll grab a 10 millimeter. 8 might work if I didn't use the washer, but anytime you're doing a slip fit like this, and in fact, this is actually made for a flathead screw, which I don't think I have any flatheads in this kit. No. Where do I have flatheads? Think it out. Think it out. Where do I have flathead screws? M2s, M3s, M3s, M3 flatheads. Where do I have flatheads? I know I have some. I just got to figure out and remember where. I see M38 flatheads. Is that true? It is. We got M3 by 8 flathead. And the reason I say it's flathead, because if you look at this back piece, this groove has like chamfered rounded edges. So the flathead fits in there just fine. Get the screw started. Kind of line our slots up. We're just going to secure that in there for the time being with the slots lining up. Say it's kind of like a placeholder. And like I said, I will measure out how high I set this on Kyber Dragon, as well as figure out the length of the screw that comes through here. I know it is not a, I know it's not the 16 or 18 that they put in the kit, because I've had to replace it every single time. And I think I put in either a 20 or 25 millimeter, because I think it sticks out like 18 millimeters. But what you'll do is you'll take a button head cap screw, you'll take 2 M3 hex head nuts, and screw them on here. And these are basically going to be used as jam nuts. So I don't think you need two. I think one works. Because this is going to screw into the front edge here. You'll figure out your plunger length. And then once you have that length, you'll take this nut and you'll tighten it down in there. And then that becomes your plunger length that you're using to trigger right in that depression on your lever here. So that is what we're going to do. So that can go there. This will go over here for now. Interesting that it didn't tell you how to actually mount the lever. Okay. So we kind of find out by looking at the main drawing up here, which you guys can't see because I'm not showing it to you. So when we come back up here and we look, we'll see that we've got the ECAS latch, the cutting arm, which has a knife holder in it with a number 4 scalpel, an M2 by 16 socket head screw that makes up the pin there, which are the full display will be easier for you guys to see. Then there will be a spring, an M3 by 18 flathead cap screw with a couple of washers. So we'll need our washers. We need an M3 by 18 flathead cap screw, which we've got. And then an M3 by 8 socket head screw. So M3 by 18, 2 washers, and the spring. Where's the spring? The spring. Now, normally what I use here is a spring from a ballpoint pen. This is a 0.5 by 4 millimeter by 15 millimeter spring. So it's a 0.5 millimeter thick wire that is 4 millimeters round and 15 millimeters long. And this, there is a pocket right there. The spring sits in that pocket. And on the other side, it's going to sit down in that pocket right beneath the blade. Okay, so let's switch back to this view so you can see more. So we've got the spring in one pocket, right? And then it's going to line up with this pocket right underneath the blade there. So you're going to line those two up together. And we're going to need a washer on top of that lever. We'll kind of push it over into place, being careful. And we'll put our screw partially in. So we've got screw, washer, lever. And then we'll need to put the other washer in on the other side, trying to get it lined up. May have gotten that too far. That actually lined up. Awesome. That was pretty easy. So now we're going to tighten this down only enough where it's snug and this is flat, because this needs to be able to move really easily. If you snug this down too much, you're going to squish it and it will no longer pivot freely. And we want this to pivot freely. We don't want it to hang. If it hangs, it won't clear the filament path. You'll see it stop midway and you won't have a clear filament path. Now the other thing, and this is the piece that I always seem to forget. And I still haven't figured out why. And this is an M3x8 that goes into that lower heat set insert down here. And once again, it doesn't need to be tightened down. This is basically stopping it from pulling out even further. So this is the end stop as it opens back up from the spring. So that is our fully assembled lower. We've got our upper done for the most part. We'll have to plug in our X-end stop, our thermistor, our heater, and so forth when we put it on the printer. We'll have 2 places where we need to take out screws and mount this on the frame in the printer, which we can do when we get there. And the rest of all of this is going to go in the bag, and then I will sort all of this stuff out into my stuff later. Into my stuff being my thingamabobbers, my sorting bins and trays later. Now, I haven't put this away yet because we're going to need to use the 5-pin that we're going to swap that one out to. And then we'll put that away once we get that swapped over. But what I'm trying to do is stop losing my mind, get things ready to bring the printer back up here so that we can mount our tool head up. Because we're getting close. I am going to have to call the stream here real soon because I have to be so a spring from a pin works just fine, Chewy. This is just coming with a, I'll say, purposely sized or selected spring, if that even makes sense. Let me move these out of the way so I don't knock those over and have to go fishing for them. We'll get the coffee out of the way because the printer's going to have to come up here. That'll go there. This will come up here. And this barely sits on my stone. We'll flip over to the bench side camera. That'll get you a little bit closer. So this is our X end stop. Once again, it's mounted right back here where my finger's at. And it trips on the side over here. And then this is our sensor coming into the connector where it was before. And once again, this was going into the 4-pin connector, which means it was set up for the 4-pin end stop connector that we are using now for the filament runout sensors. So we're going to have to change this over to the 5-pin connector and get it set up over on the BL Touch side. And so it wants us to use the center 3 pins, which will be 5-volt signal on the servo pin and then the ground, and leave the 2 ends open. So basically what I want to do is depin these one at a time, and see how this would have gone in, would have been that way. So how the hell is this working? Power, Ground. Oh yeah, that's right. I get confused sometimes because this particular one, so this is one of the ones that had the, how can I put this? The incorrectly done wire. And what I mean by incorrectly done wire, the ground and signal are reversed on this. So red is power, blue is ground, and black is signal. Let me say that again. Red is power, but the ground and the signal wires were swapped. And if you don't pay attention to that, you're going to have a bad time and probably potentially blow your sensor. And depinning these things are about as much fun as pinning them to start with. Okay, so I just took the signal pin out, and this goes into the signal pin for the BL Touch, which is the middle pin, and the middle pin. The next one, which is my blue wire, is my ground pin. So that is my ground pin. Okay. And ground be to the left of signal. And of course, the last one is my power pin. Go on the other side of the signal, or in this case, the black. And I do see gray wires hanging. So let me clean that up real fast. Okay. All my wires now back in there, and that's going to go down to the BL Touch side. Ooh. Hey, Nick, how's it going? I am feeling a little bit better today. I have to say that. I am feeling better today. Okay. So we want to put our tool head side on, and this is going to be with M3x8 screws. So let me get a couple of those. One. Just got my screw stuck. And that's what she said. That's stuff there, there. Lined up in the appropriate spot. Screw that one down. Grab this side and it down. All that trying to be good, I just drove a piece of wire into my finger. Dang it. Yeah. Got it out. Good. Okay, so that's in there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our, I will bring you guys around here. So we've got our, see if I, there we go. So we've got our filament runout sensors up here. This is our CNC tap. This is going to go into this 5-pin connector here. It'd be a lot easier to, okay, that goes there. This is our actual X end stop, which is going to go up here all the way in the top left, I believe. I believe that's where it went based on how everything else is lining up. We're going to need to put our lower side in and clipping under the M3x8 whatchamacallits, or at least one side's a little tight, so we'll have to loosen those. Remember that these screws here are locating screws. They're not designed to tighten and hold these in place. They're just there to locate the part. And then the bottom sits on the M3x6 screws that are in the very bottom of your tool head piece. So this is our thermistor wire, which we need to make sure we did not just kink in there. Apparently I love doing. Okay. Thermistor. This goes into this lower front one here, which we now have a little cutout in the front of the tool head for. Make it easier to get that plugged in and pulled back out. Unless we're trying to capture it on camera. And then our power wire comes around and into the back, right underneath the USB connector here. Okay. So then we'll just kind of fold those things over, figure out the best way to flip this down, get everything, whoops. Up there, everything out of the way. This flips down. And then our M3x6 screw goes right in there. Which this is always the hard part for me, is getting that, not necessarily the hard part of getting the screw in there, but keeping the screw in there, or keeping the wires in there nicely. So let me get my front shroud lined up here. Make sure everything's lining up with that tool head board. We've got our two M3x50s that go into the front lowers. I'm just making sure that as I get that closer that it's not pushing the lower edge out, that it's actually lining up and going into the lower hole of the CNC tap. Getting ready to have add start. Same thing over on this side. Now, we're going to have two screws that would be set for either side of the front, or excuse me, on either side at the top. These are M3x20s. We're going to put one of these over here on the right side. On the left side, we cannot put an M3x20. We put an M3x20 on the left side, we will bind our we'll bind the cutting lever. So we're going to need an M3x18, I believe it is. And that should be provided in the kit. Here that is. Test your lever, what I'm doing right now. Test your lever, make sure that it springs back. If it sticks, it doesn't spring back all the way, check the tightness of the screws back, either your flathead screw here or your M3x8 screw down here. That is most likely, and make sure that you're not rubbing anywhere up in this area. So you can see right here is where that 2.5 screw comes through. So if it goes to the front, out the front side of this, if we were to tighten this all the way down, that screw is going to stick way out, and we're never going to have a proper movement here. So we're good there. Let me stick this down in place. I do need to put my M3x6 screw on this side. Once again, this is where we need to just do some cable management to make sure that our cables are tucked nicely out of the way. Snug our M3x6 up. And we're not getting into the CANBUS wiring. I will do that off camera, or maybe we'll do that again Saturday morning. What the heck? But our tool head's now on there. I still need to put an ECAS fitting in the top. I should have probably done that before I put everything together, because that's going to take some pressure to put it on there. Everything's wired up on the tool head itself. Our tool head's back on there. So we'll be able to plug in our CANBUS wire. We need to do our support clip in the back. Maybe we'll throw that on here real fast. So our support clip has a spot here where the USB port goes. So this basically just slides on from the back side here. And then we'll have an M3x8 that goes in the front, which might be blocked right now. On my lever, we'll have to see. This is going to be fun. There we go. We'll get the M3x8 from the back or from the front side. Again, I think it's an M3x10 from the back, and that'll secure this lever in place. And then we'll have another piece that I need to figure out either what I did with it or reprint it. That will, what that'll do is support the CANBUS cable in the back, because the CANBUS cable comes straight up. So let me kind of show you. The arm's linking in here. It comes around and snugs right around that USB-C cable. And then there's another piece that will sit on the top here that will go around the CANBUS cable and screw in here with an M3x8. There's your XT30 2x2. That'll bring your CANBUS cable in. So I'll find that piece. I'm not sure what I did with it. But folks, I do need to drop and switch over to my class. So thank you everybody for being here today and hanging out with me. We're getting close. I swear we're getting close. By Saturday, we'll have this installed. I'll install my titanium backer maybe along the x-axis here. Doesn't really need to be there, but for giggles, maybe. The plunger mechanism here will be mounted right here in the front and take the place of the first two screws in our titanium backer. And that'll give us the ability to move this around and capture everything there. And then what else? I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, sorry for a short stream today, folks. But like I said, I do have a class to get into for the business. So thank you very much for putting up with me today. At some point, we'll get some more wiring done, and we should have this up and running shortly. Fingers crossed, real soon. But thank you, everybody. I will see you guys in the next stream, which will be Saturday morning, 10 a.m. All right. Let's see. Who do we want to raid out to? Who has started their stream? We got Chaos Drucker. Of course, Maker Deck's up. Chaos Drucker, Pick Stitch, the Jang, Wana, Sigareki, Foxen, Free Heathens up and running still. Science is up. Gosh, quite a few people. All the Tech is up. So folks, can't remember if we've gone over them before or not. Holotech is a streamer over on YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, and stuff like that. They build PCs. Their company is Hall of Tech out in California. They build PCs, and she normally builds PCs on stream. And she just recently got into 3D printing. In fact, she's reached out to me and asked me several questions about 3D printing. And she's wanting to use 3D printing to build and modify printer cases and stuff like that. So I'm going to go and let's raid into Holotech. Like I said, she is a new 3D printer. She was just on a stream with Auroras. It was Auroras doing a PC build and giveaway today on stream with them. So I've got the raid started over to Holotech. Thank you once again for being over here, everybody, and hanging out with me tonight. And I will see you guys on Saturday. Bye now. And for those of you that are watching this on YouTube, I believe over here, you will now have a pop-up window coming up that suggest another video for you. And as always, please like and subscribe if you like the content. There is member-only content getting ready to come out, so please feel free to hit the join button down there as well and become a member of the channel. Thank you, everybody.